So today, Martin Sjögren joins me. Martin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much, Jamie.
No worries. So today, obviously, we're going to be speaking about your career with the Norwegian women's national team and where you're moving over to in a very short space of time. But currently, you're managing at a very high level. But before we get to that, we're going to be speaking about your early days growing up and playing football. So who actually got you into football?
I think that was I'm brought up in a sporting family. My dad played professional, but ice hockey. But sports always been a major part of my life and my ever since I was a little boy. And I was playing some different sports, from the start. But football was one of them. But I also been in tennis, and I was doing a bit of ice hockey, of course, because of my dad mostly. I didn't really like ice hockey so much, but I kind of had to do it. And then also, in Sweden, we have something called floorball. I don't know if you know what that is. But,
No, I don't.
No, it's like, you play. It's like ice hockey, but it's with it's with a ball, and you play on a rubber floor, with no skates. It's big in Sweden. But then kind of early, I always thought football was the most fun. So I ended up with football, playing on a semi-pro level. But also quite early, I was quite more interested in moving into coaching and leadership and sports psychology and those types of subjects. So I ended playing when I was 26, and I went straight into coaching after that. So, and I've been since then I've been 20 years in the business as coach. So but it's always been even from early age, when I didn't make it to pro level myself, I was kind of into quite early to switch into coaching.
So you mentioned ice hockey there, and I've heard about this sort of thing recently. Did you enjoy it? Because obviously it's two things that you've got to have to do. You've got to skate, and then you've got to learn how to play the hockey itself.
Yeah, but it's really difficult, to be honest. And if you want to become a good ice hockey player, you need to be good on the skates, in skating. And I was rubbish, so I kind of I had a short career on the ice.
So in terms of you being a player, you finished at 25. What do you make of your semi-professional time being a player? Did you enjoy it, and did you ever think you'd end up being a pro?
Yeah, but I was quite one of those players you call a talent. Early age, making a debut on quite on a semi-pro senior level at the age of 15, 16, playing regularly at the age of 16, 17. At the third division, or the third level in Sweden. But then I never really took the next step, becoming a full-time pro. So I stayed playing on the third level in Sweden for quite many years, for more or less all my career. I was also first you work hard, and you try to make it to the pros. And I've always had the idea, when I played when I was younger, even at turning 20 and a couple of years over 20, you thought that, okay, I will hopefully, maybe if I do a good job now, I will make it to the next level. But it never really happened. And then I got an offer from a university in the US to play college, and to go on a scholarship. And that was kind of that became my substitute for not making it to the pros. So I got a bit of an adventure in the US, and I really liked going to the university, and at the same time still more or less having the same facilities and the setup as the pros, because everyone knows that school football and school sports is really, university sport is really big in the US. So So I was there for 2 years, and before moving back, playing a couple of more years at the same level, doing okay, but now also back then I was turning a little bit older, so I understood that it won't be a career when I play full time. So then also I kind of quite early decided to move into coaching.
So I know in America, I know quite a lot of players that have headed over there to do that university/football. So you enjoyed it, and do you think it's a good way to boost your football? Is it more learning or is it more playing football?
Yeah, but I think it's totally different depending on, first of all, who you are, and then also what kind of level do you play at, because there are good levels of football in the US. I played on it was an okay level. So to me, it was more, growing as a person, getting an experience, learning a new language, learning a new culture, get the opportunity to to study and to do something abroad. But I think for some of these players, to move to the US and to be at one of the best universities, if you want to become an elite player, I think that's it's a for some it's a good way, and it's a good step to take, and for some others maybe not. But the level of the football at the university in the US, if you look at the best universities, it's a good level of football.
So I believe your first club was in 2004, and the issue with interviewing people who have played in Finland and Sweden and is I can't pronounce the names. So let me try. Was it Osters IF Dam?
It's not bad. Östers IF, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And you joined them. What was it like to be in that realm, to become that first team coach like you wanted to be?
Yeah, but that was my first coaching job, and I got the opportunity to coach at a pretty high level from the start, and also becoming the head coach. Of course, I've been enrolled in a university, and I was taking a psych major, and I have a degree in sports science, and also doing some of the courses, the coaching courses from the federation, but I had no experience in coaching a team and working with a team. So I was a bit like you always are when you're young and you're inexperienced. That I was a bit unsecure is this something for me? But also, I also thought it was really a good challenge for me, and from day one I really loved it. Also ending up on the women's side, which wasn't it wasn't something that had been a natural part of my of my life then. I've been playing myself and mainly been interested in the men's side, for watching the Premier League like everyone, and you watch the Swedish top flight, and you watch the top flight leagues in other countries. But yeah, from day one, I really been enjoying it, and I was really what really made me more interested in this and really helped to even enjoy it even more is that the girls were so ambitious, really ambitious, and this was the the second league in Sweden, but they didn't have any. No one were paid. We were actually training 5 days a week and had one game on the weekend, and everyone was there to become better footballers. So I really liked the ambition of these girls coming every day to training to try to become better footballers. So and I would say, more or less since then, I've been in the women's football for more or less 20 years.
But before you landed that job in Sweden, your first managerial stint, did you ever have like any idea into the women's game in Sweden as to how big it's going to become?
No, not really. To be fair, I didn't have any experience of the women's game before I got into coaching on the women's side, which was, like you say, it's quite a long time ago now. But of course, Sweden have always been, together with some other countries, pioneers on the women's side, and we were early on having women's football, and women's football, from when I started, we had the teams like Umeå FC, who was one of the best teams actually in the world, and the interest was getting bigger and bigger. But if you look back now, if you look back 20 years and you look back on the way things were back then, and you see all the progress and the development of the women's game across not just only Sweden but across the world, it's been a fantastic journey, I would say. And things have, if you look at it in a long perspective, things now have only just got started, and it's going to be growing even more and more and more. So I think there are really some interesting times ahead of us.
In 2006, you joined Malmö as the assistant manager or the assistant coach. What was that like? Why did you want to go and experience another club? Why would you want to go and become the assistant?
Yeah, but to me, being so unexperienced, having 2 years as the head coach, I felt like, okay, I learned some things, but I really, I need to gain more experience. And I got the opportunity to become the assistant of one of the top teams in Sweden, and I thought that was a good step actually in my career to take a step back if you compare to being a head coach, but still working closely together with the head coach as the first assistant, and also in a team in the highest league with a lot of national team players. So to me, I think it was just a natural step, and I really, really learned a lot from those 4 years as I was working as the assistant. And I think to me that was an important step, to become a better coach and to get more prepared of when I get the opportunity to become the head coach. And now it was at the same club, but maybe it could have been in another club. And I learned a lot from those 4 years as the assistant, which I've had. It was important to me.
So when the manager left, you became the manager as the assistant, and I think it went pretty well for you. You won the league back to back. How did you manage to do that?
No, but sometimes you get lucky, I would say. No, but I knew the club inside out after being there for 4 years. I got the opportunity to become the head coach. It wasn't easy, to accept it, because of course, you've been the assistant and you've been working closely to the head coach, and then you get the chance to take over the role. And but I decided to accept it. And I knew the club, I knew the players, and I've also maybe I had some ideas to what we needed to change a little bit, maybe to get a little bit more out of the team we had, to loosen up some things, and maybe twist a little bit. But and then the result became really good for those 2 years that I was the head coach in Malmö. And we had 2 great years winning back-to-back titles.
Before you left the club and joined a new club in 2012, in the midst of all of this, you're doing your coaching badges, presumably. When in 2012, what level of badge were you at?
In 2012, I was at the A level. I think you call it that.
Yes.
The A level. Things have been, because things went pretty fast, so I was at the A level, and then I had the pro license some years after that. But of course, to take all these courses is really important for you, and it also gives you a lot in your in your career. It gives you more of a foundation to build on, and then also I went some some other type of courses on the strength and conditioning, and just to make the foundation a little bit more stable. And I think this with education and the courses, it's time consuming, but you really get something out of it, and also you get to meet a lot of other coaches, and you share experiences, which is also you don't get that on the license, but that's one of the major things also with doing these license courses, to meet other coaches, to meet other people, to share experience, to learn from each other, which I think it's also, you get to know new people, which is also very good, because this business also have a lot to say about contacts and the networking that you need to do to be able to stay in this business.
So you decided in 2012 to go to Linköping FC. Again, I probably said the name very badly.
No, it's not
is it all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Linköping. That's the Swedish pronunciation. Yeah, but you're doing pretty good, Jamie, I think.
Okay, good to hear. And you joined them. Why did you decide to join them? What was so nice about them?
But first of all, I decided not to stay in Malmö, or LDB FC. That the name of the club was back then, because I was there for 6 years, and we won back-to-back championships. You come to a certain time where you think that maybe now it's time to quit. So I was out of job, or I was doing some jobs for the federation during 6 months before Linköping, before they called me and asked me if I wanted to step in a role in the club. So Linköping's been a top club for many years, and always been an interesting club, I think. Professionally run, good players, good facilities. So I thought it was an interesting job to jump on in 2012.
I speak to a lot of players, a lot of coaches that are over in Sweden and Finland, and obviously the leagues there are pretty different to the UK. I know a lot of teams that play inside, which is quite weird. Did you ever have the experience of coaching inside?
Oh, you mean coaching like an indoor?
Yeah, in a game. Yeah.
Yeah, but I have. Yeah, we have some. We have some big indoor arenas. Yeah, but usually, no, I don't think anyone plays like league games. But I've been playing in the Swedish Cup, and I've been playing. I've been coaching indoor, and Öster, the team that I coach. My 2 first years, they had a big, an indoor arena as a training facility, which is, that the weather isn't always the best in Sweden, and it could be cold and it could be icy and snowy. So for a lot of teams, it's really, they have nice facilities, being able to train indoors. But so I would say it's a really, it's a big advantage to have a good indoor arena to be able to practice in good conditions every day.
In the few years that you spent at Linköping, it was very good in these years. You managed to go undefeated, but before we get to that point, every year was a decent improvement. In the first year, you finished third. So, what was the expectations going into that season?
Yeah, first of all, I think when I got to Linköping 2012, actually the club had a bit of problems with the financially, so they had to lower the budget a little bit. So we together with the club, I decided that we need to do a rebuild and a restructure of the squad, because the squad was a bit too expensive for the club to bear. So we signed a lot of young players, promising talents, mainly from Sweden, of course, maybe the most famous one from Denmark, and then we kept the older players that we thought was most important ones. So we made a restructure with a plan that the plan was that in 3 years we were going to be able to win something. Now it took 4 years before we did, but we did improvements, I think, every year, and we got a bit closer and closer for every year. We worked hard, of course. Like you always do, there are a few players in, a few players out every year, but overall we kept this more or less the same core of the squad for 4 years, and finally the fourth year we everything worked out in the best way, and we got the win, and we performed really, really well throughout the year.
So you mentioned the badges and about the networking that is required, but obviously as the manager, you have to sign new players. Sometimes you have to get rid of them. But when you're signing new players, how do you know what player is going to fit well into your squad?
Yeah, this job has actually changed significantly. If you look back, when I was doing this job in Malmö, becoming the head coach, and also doing a lot of like sport director job. Then most of the, because you had some good contacts with agents. It was hard to get like statistics, and it was hard to get all these facts that you can get now by just pushing a button on your on your scouting program. So it was quite much about creating contacts and talking to people, watching them play, and nowadays you have a full team working with scouting, and you get reports on more or less every step the player takes. So it's really have become very different, from really doing all that job more or less yourself, now to having a big team that does everything more or less. And now in the club I'm working at now, now the sports director and the scouting team, they do the signings, and of course I'm a part of it, but not like the way it was before, when I was the one who decided more or less everything, who was coming in and out. So it's been really a really a big change in the recruiting processes. So it's been totally different job now.
So Norway came up next, the head of a national team. So that's a very, very big statement to make. How did that come about? Again, was that just through a connection that you made somewhere down the line?
To be fair, I think because we had a Norwegian player, I signed a Norwegian player to Linköping, and I think that could have been an opener, to get into the national team. So people from Norway, from the federation, they called after the 2016 season, quite late, to be honest, and they asked me if I had an interest in coaching the Norwegian national team. And to me, to coach a national team is big. Of course, the biggest thing is to coach your own national team, but to coach a team like the Norwegian national team with a great history, and some talented players, I thought it was a good, it came to me as this is a good challenge, and the next step in my career. So after a process of interviews and some case studies and stuff like that, I got offered the job, and it was a big step. I've been involved in the Swedish national teams, on the youth level, and been doing some scouting for the first national team, but I never been actually the head coach of a national team. So to me, that was a new challenge and a bit of a bigger change than I thought. If you compare to having a club team where you work with the players every day and you meet your staff, and maybe the staff in a club isn't that big as it is in a national team. So it was a lot of big changes which I didn't really understood to 100%. Of course, I understood it was a big change, but you know what I mean. You kind of had to live it to understand it.
So what does a national team manager do then when they have no fixtures and nothing to do?
But then you get a lot of time in between all these between the international periods. Like for now, I think it's only 6 periods a year, and then if you don't have a championship in the summer, sorry. So you have a lot of time to evaluate, but also, of course, you need to follow the players, and you need to follow the domestic league, but also you need to follow the leagues around around Europe and around the world where the players are playing, and you also need to do some other jobs for the federation, being part of all these types of groups and stuff like that. But you have a lot of time, and you have a lot of time to think about what to do and to plan the next camp, and so it's a lot about planning, and a lot about traveling.
So calling up a player to the national team, is it just a call on the phone? How do you announce to them they've been called up to represent their country?
But it's usually a call. Yeah, usually a call. I think, and you call them usually when it's the first, when the first pick, or maybe if it's if they've been away for a while and you call them, you have contact more or less with all the players in different ways, and then also you have to make calls and tell the ones who doesn't get picked, not to every camp, but especially when you make those big announcements for the squads for like a championship. It's so not all calls are fun ones, but you have to do them, and usually when you call someone to tell them that they get picked for the national team, that's a fun call, of course. But but then you need to handle those disappointments that that comes from the player when they don't get picked, and especially for big tournaments.
So in Euro 2017, that had a decent amount of hype around it, but not compared to the 2022 Euros. But in terms of your first major European tournament, what was that like for you to go into that?
But it's big, and now having the experience of all these tournaments, I think the 2017 was it was a big championship back then, but the like the increase, if you look at the all the spectators, and you look at media and everything, it's been growing so fast, for these 3 championships that I have the experience of. So, but I thought it was coming in, doing my first senior championship as the head coach, it was a really, really good experience. I really enjoyed it, even if the result wasn't that good. But it was a really good experience and a great experience of learning. And I had only been in the, I had only been with Norway for 6 months. So with just having like three international periods to getting to know the team, to work with the team, the expectations from myself wasn't that high. And of course you want to do good results always, and you get evaluated on the results. But it was also, I think, for the upcoming period into the World Cup 2019, this was a really important process that we went through. And I learned so much from the 2017 championship.
And this is why it was quite an interesting one where Gareth Southgate got sacked, obviously, by England, and then Tuchel's come in. Because I find it very hard to see how Tuchel's going to put his stamp on the team in the World Cup next year. I think the timing's too short. And I think that was the same for you, because in your second major tournament, things definitely improved.
Yeah, and it takes a bit of time, because it takes a bit of time to get to know the players. It also takes time for the players to get to know you. It takes time to implement new ideas, and it was clear from the federation that they wanted a change in style of playing. So that's also one of the, I think, one of the reasons why I got hired, because I wanted to change, or I stand for a different type of football than the Norwegians had been playing before I got there. So to me, that was also that we need to kind of rely on the process, that it takes a bit of time to change this. And I think we had, after the Euros, going into the World Cup qualification, I think that period from the World Cup qualification started until the end of the fall period after the World Cup. That year was the best period we had, I think, during my years as the national team coach.
So what do you think changed then within those two tournaments?
Yeah, but like I said, first we got to know the players better, me and my team. The players knew us better. They understood more what we wanted to do. We kept on. Of course, we evaluated that we had poor results, and we evaluated everything, and we were dead honest to ourselves about what was good and what was not good. With ourselves, I mean me and my coaching staff. And then we, together with the players, we did a bit of small adjustments, but still with the main idea, the main framework were the same. We just adapted a little bit within the framework. So we got the players on board on this, and they did a really good job, and we were working really hard, everyone, to try to change this. This negative result from the Euros, and all of a sudden, just things they fell into place. Which it's a process. So we just kept on becoming a little bit better every time we met, and making and winning that qualification group. Also having the Netherlands, which won the Euros, which we also played in the Euros and lost 2-1. And also ending up beating them at home to win the group. I think that kind of show what type of improvement and development we got throughout that year, or whatever it took. I think you qualify for a year, so that year was, we really did a lot of good things.
So once you qualify for a World Cup, obviously the World Cup fixtures get drawn. Where are you? Do you go somewhere to go and see this in person?
Yeah. You attend the World Cup, the draws for the World Cup. Usually it's quite a big thing, This time, of course, we were in Paris. Some representatives from the federation, and I just remember that we had a really tough group. We were picked in a really, really tough group. Of course, with like Norway always does, they pick the hosts. I think they have done that for so many championships now, even after I left. So and we also got South Korea, and we got Nigeria. So we got a really, really tough group. So I just remember us being like, okay, this is gonna be a tough championship for us. But at the same time, you want to embrace the challenge as well.
So the first game was a 3-0 win against Nigeria. So that would have settled the nerve somewhere for you, right?
Yeah, definitely. I remember, this first game. It's really important to get a good start in the championship, and but maybe most important, it's really important not to get a bad start. So of course there's a lot of tension to a premiere in the first game in the championship, and uh, I'm usually not very nervous, but this time I really felt it. But it was kind of this good nervosity or whatever you call it, that it was a good tension. But yeah, we came out and I think we did a really good game against a really tough opponent, and we had this. It was a flying start for us, and we really needed that energy, I think, after, because everyone, even if we had been playing good for a year coming into the championship, everyone, remember the last championship, of course. So we really needed that start, and that start 3-0 win or 3-0 win gave us a lot of energy and a lot of belief that we were doing very good things.
So the second game was a 2-1 loss to France, and obviously we all know how good France can be and are. But then in that last game going into it, it was all like everything was up in the air, and obviously you managed to get the win.
Yeah, and then, we were playing South Korea, who was, they were. I think South Korea is a good team, so it wasn't like we were not the favorites. I think it was an even call, for that last game. But yeah, when you play these teams that are really technical and they want to control they control the game with the passing games and in possession, it becomes this feeling that it's hard to get a hold on the ball. But I think we really handle it in a good way, and yeah, I think we got a penalty in that game. I can't really remember it, but
You did, both of them were
yeah,
penalties.
both were penalties. Yeah,
Yes.
so yeah, but it was on the counterattacks, I think. So we had a clear plan that physically we were a bit stronger than South Korea. So I think we had a good plan, and the girls did a fantastic job. And so yeah, it was really nice, winning that game, going through to the final stages, and also getting energy from that, because of course it's always, it's tough if you play these decisive games when you have all the pressure on, going through. And and also in Norway, everyone has high expectations on the women's national team, and they still have, because of the history of winning the Olympics, and having won the World Cup as well back in the day. So everyone has very high expectations in Norway of the national team. So that also builds on some extra tension, and you don't want to disappoint your own country. So I really thought we handled that well, and of course I was really happy going through.
The second game, sorry, not the second game. The first game of the round of 16 was Australia. And again, that was a penalty relying game. And I've been wanting to speak about this because you said you weren't nervous, but I would have been very nervous on that shootout.
Yeah, but in the shootout, I thought of course, now we were playing with one man, one play more, because of they got a red card. I can't remember really when, but we were playing for quite a long time.
I think it was the 100th minute.
Yeah, so we had and I felt that we were the better team, even before the red card. So I had a good feeling, and I really. I remember talking to the players before the penalty shootout that this is our game, because I felt that we were the better team, and I also felt that we had so much positive energy in that team. Yeah, the feeling when we go out, to when the players the ones who are gonna, the 11 that moves out, and they walk out to the center of the pitch, and I just had a good feeling that we will win this, and we definitely did. We did a great penalty shootout.
And then England in a 3-0 loss in the quarterfinals. Yeah, go on. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt like we had, we had played 4 really, really tough games. It it really took a lot of energy out from us, I think, and that also, that game playing 120 minutes, the penalty shootout. Of course, we were really happy, and we trained really well, before the games versus England, and I felt really confident, but. In that game, when the game started and England scored, I just felt that it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard, and I think England played a really good game and made it hard for us, and we didn't really have the energy to be able actually to to compete with England that day. But yes, I think of course you're really disappointed on losing that game, and you're out of a tournament, and always when the tournament ends, it really is everything. It feels so empty. It's like it's like a balloon pops. Yeah, but that was England were the better team, so it's we can't say much about that.
I want to be wary about the time, because obviously I did say that we will be an hour. So
Yeah.
obviously the 2020 Summer Olympics you guys didn't qualify for, but you signed a contract extension into the 2022 Euros. And again, what was the feeling going into that Euros? Because ultimately there were so many more fans in the stadiums, and it was a really great tournament.
Yeah, but I think for every championship, like I said early, that the level of interest, the media coverage, and of course in England with the media coverage, everything had geared up a level. We were really. It felt really, good moving into to the next championship. But at the same time, it was also the COVID, and we felt that this COVID period, because the COVID period had really affected our team because of the way the Norwegian government actually handled the COVID with all the restrictions, and I felt like when COVID hit us, we really lost the momentum we built up after the World Cup, moving in, and when COVID broke out, I think it was like in February or something. And from that on until the championship, it was I think we lost a bit of momentum and we lost a bit of speed, and I think it really hit us hard. But it's no excuse. But that was a bit of the feeling that we lost a bit of speed, and we lost a bit of energy in our way forward. But of course, going into a championship, also knowing that you will play the host again, and also with the big interest that we saw was coming in England, that was. It's always, doing championship is one of the most fun things you can do as a football coach.
So I know obviously in this tournament it wasn't the greatest on your personal record. And obviously that did include an 8-0 loss to England. How did you bring into the players and into the changing room and sort of console them after that smacking?
Yeah, I just remember, of course, it's hard. It's hard to describe. And first of all, you feel after the game, you really feel sorry for the players, because of course, it's humiliating losing that big. England did a great game, but we also helped them out quite much, I think. So there was some important meetings the day after, because you wanna, because the championship was far from over. Because if we would have done a better game against Austria and won that game, it would have been through to the next round, because we had a good start of the tournament. We played a really good game against Northern Ireland down in Southampton, I think. So the tournament was far from from over, but losing that big, it really hit us hard, I think, and it created a lot of stress, and it also made me making some maybe some decisions now when I'm looking back at it, that I wouldn't have done, if I had the chance to do it over again. But afterwards you have to reflect on it, and you learn from it, and then you move on. And I think that even if it was hard with the championship in England, to move on, and it also ended up with me losing my job, still I think that's also one of the hardest experience I've had, but it's also one of the best experience, looking back to it, because you learn so much about yourself, and you learn so much about players, and you learn so much about people. So I think it's also like everything. I think you have to learn from the experience that you get.
I did watch the press conference after that match, and again, you seem to be really cool and quite composed after that defeat. But obviously, the manager that you came up against is one of the best managers within the women's game, Sarina Wiegman. What did you make of her, having met her during and after the game?
I can't. I know Sarina from way back, also playing, because she also was coaching the Netherlands in the Euros. So I know her since way back, and I can't remember. I think I just congratulated her for to the win, but I didn't speak to her more than that. I think after the game, when you lose that big, you more or less just wanna disappear. But I tried to stay professional, so I need to do the press conference. I need to answer the questions of the journalists. I need to do the interviews, and I also have a obligation to protect the players, because we had one more game. The championship wasn't over, so we needed to protect the players as much as I can as the manager in that situation, which is not it's not easy to be honest. But you just have to do what you have to do.
So where you are now, again, it's probably an easy pronunciation. Hammarby,
Yeah.
Hammarby. Obviously, in the middle of that, you were with the men's side as the assistant coach, but I really want to focus on the women's game because your career was so interesting in it. So you took a bit of time out and then decided to return into the women's game. Why did you decide to do that?
Yeah, but I got the opportunity to, Hammarby is a big club. Hammarby is it's the most interesting club in Sweden. And we have Hammarby is a special club also because the fan base is so big, and it's hard to describe if you haven't experienced it. It's really hard to describe, but it's such a big interest in the club, and I got the offer to take over as the head coach from Hammarby. I was having some other options as well, but when Hammarby contacted me, I really felt that this is something I want to do, and also getting back into head coaching in club football again. I thought it was it was a good opportunity for me. It was a really interesting job, and I've been enjoying it really since then.
And you've had some great opportunities to manage against the likes of Manchester City and Barcelona. I want to focus on Barcelona first of all. Obviously, we know how big they are, how great they are, and obviously they've got so many great players. How do you match a side up against those sensational players?
But it's really a challenge, because that you face like 5 of the 10 top 10 players on the best female players in the world list. So of course it's a big challenge, and now we played Barcelona twice. because of the group stage. And I think, of course, it's a big loss in Barcelona, but we learned so much. We learned so much about playing this great team in Barcelona, getting beaten big. Because the next time we play them, I think I can't say we played an even game, but we handled the game much, much better. And we did a good performance, even losing 3-0. We did a really good performance. And, for the team I have in Hammarby, which is quite unexperienced, and not many players have been playing, at the club level, internationally, in the Champions League at this level. So to get this experience, both, for the last year's Champions League was really, really important for us, but also now when we look into what's coming up here in a week ahead of us, qualification for the Champions League, we of course it's good to have the experience of playing these good teams in Europe.
So when you travel in the Champions League, and I'm such a fan to ask this sort of question, but so when you travel to the likes of Barcelona, how many days in advance, how much time do you have to chill and relax before the big game? Like, what's your whole routine for that?
I mean, usually you travel just the day before you play, and you practice on the game arena. You get an hour of practice on the arena you will play at. For us, it's a bit different playing that late because it's 9 o'clock, and we usually play, the latest we play in Sweden is 7. So that's a bit of something that you need to handle. Yeah, to be fair, it's a bit bigger, and it's Champions League, and that's big playing Champions League, and especially if you haven't done it before. And of course, Barcelona, it's big, but you have to kind of, the preparations and the things you do ahead need to be a bit similar to what you do into every, before every game. But then it's different playing Barcelona than playing a Swedish team in the domestic league. But the preparation looks quite similar, I think. And just that first, which I could tell from the players, and the experience of the players, that you can feel that it's a big occasion for them to play, which it should be. But the second time we played them at home at a bigger stadium, because we played our Champions League home games at the arena where the men's team usually play, which is a much, much bigger stadium than the one we played in Barcelona, with so many more spectators as well. So we're quite used to playing in front of in front of a big crowd. But then I think, this, not respect, because you always respect your opponents, but the feeling of that, okay, we've done this before, and it's nothing to be so nervous about. I think that experience is really important, and especially if you have a young team like I have in Hammarby.
So you mentioned that you have got the qualification rounds coming up for the Champions League.
Yep.
You're playing a team from Ukraine, which is obviously quite interesting. So what do you make of them? What sort of insight could you give me?
It's not we, of course, we scout them together with the scouting team, and they're doing a great job. And then we get some, they have started their league, so we get the games and we can watch the games. Then of course you have to kind of look of the level that they play in the league and compare it to how do we think they will play against us, and from that you make the scouting. You take the scouting report and you put our tactical framework on top of that, and you try to make some good decisions about how you want to handle the game. But it's the Champions League, so you have to have good knowledge about the teams you will be playing. Also, you will most likely be playing maybe, a bit different style, maybe, or maybe a different type of football that you compared to what you usually have. Because in Sweden um, in Sweden, you know all the teams. You know all the players you're playing at, and the players know all the other players, and and this not knowing the players you're gonna play. I think it's also important to prepare the team for, this is the players we're gonna play, and what so you do an individual scouting also that you can present to the players, and especially for the players that want to. So I think it's really it's a lot of scouting that need to be done, and when you especially when you play a team that you haven't played before and that you don't have an experience of playing previously, I think it's really important.
So, as we all know, you're signing over in Chicago from 2026 in January, which, again, we could talk about really briefly. But the league in Sweden ends in mid-November. So what's going to be filling your time?
But I think hopefully we will play the Champions League all until the mid December. So I don't think I will, have a lot of time in between those jobs, And if I get time, of course, I'm going to spend it with my family. I think I will have a lot to do. Even if we don't make it to the, to the Champions League, still there will be some work for Hammarby until the end of the year, and then before I pack my bag and move to the US.
And is your family coming to the US with you?
Yes, not not in January, because I have my youngest son. He needs to finish 6th grade here in Sweden before my wife and my youngest son will make the move to US.
And lastly, apart from the weather in America, what are you most looking forward to?
I look forward to coming to a league that I don't really know that well yet. A bit of a new way of playing football, which I know from my time in Norway, that when you come to a different culture, even if Norway and Sweden is pretty similar, you need to adapt. And of course, I want to bring my idea of playing football, but I also need to mix it with the idea, the more American idea of playing football, which is a bit more direct, more physical. So we need to mix this, which I think is going to be a really, really fun challenge. So I'm really, for now, all my focus is on Hammarby, of course, every day working hard for Hammarby, but it's gonna be fun moving into the NWSL, and also with everything happening in the US, and with it's so many good things happening in the league at the moment. So it's gonna be really interesting when I start.
Well, Martin, thank you very much for joining me. I could ask you questions for hours. It's such an interesting career. But thank you very much.
Hey, thank you so much, Jamie.